Do we have too much government?
We need to put people ahead of corporate profits.
This system is so lopsided. This threat is a real threat to democracy.
And I think that's really important. That's something we haven't been doing in this country for a long time.
Where do you start? What do you do? How do you do it?
Access to Democracy and other Eagan community television programming is supported by Thomson Reuters, makers of Westlaw Next and based in Eagan. Through Westlaw Next and other innovative online services, Thomson Reuters is the world's leading source of intelligent information for businesses and professionals. Online at thomsonreuters.com. And by U.S. Federal Credit Union, the member-owned financial institution offering service, value, and experience you can trust to the greater Twin Cities community.
Welcome. Access to Democracy returns. Alan Miller hosting for a change. And we have a return guest, multi-return guest, Pat Anderson.
Good to be here again, Alan.
A dozen years, and she keeps coming back for more abuse.
You dish it out and I can take it, right?
And you can give it back too. And
so it's good to be here.
It's been a great relationship, and
Yeah.
we appreciate you coming in. We'll talk about politics, and let's get right into it. Let's not beat around the bush. Who's going to be the Republican nominee for president?
I actually think it's going to be Walker, and I know that today he's up, but the Republican Party tends to gravitate towards governors. He has a reputation. I think the Ted Cruzes of the world, and that's. They rarely make it. Now you have...
Not Jeb?
I don't think so. I think that there's a lot of, there's been two Bushes.
Bushes and Clintons forever.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Young Clintons growing up, and there are young Bushes in the Bushes. So.
Yeah. No, and there's, some interesting connections. You have Walker and... Reince Priebus, who's the head of the RNC,
Wisconsin.
Again, just reelected. They are very, very close. Reince was the chairman of the Republican Party in Wisconsin back before he was elected, and there's been a very close relationship there. There's a very close relationship with Paul Ryan, obviously. He's from Wisconsin. So I would put my money at this early stage on Walker.
You're not supporting Chris Christie?
I think Christie is done. I think he's absolutely done.
He done himself.
He done himself. I think Romney's out. You're going to see I know it's a wide field right now, but I think it's going to shrink pretty quick. I think Huckabee has no legs. I think Santorum is, long.
Santorum been there, done that.
Absolutely.
Huckabee also been there, done that. And he's also said too many irrational things, frankly.
Yep. So I think it wouldn't surprise me if you had a couple of these guys come together as a ticket. If you had one of the Senate one of the senators maybe became a VP candidate, and as things shake out, because they're going to need to consolidate.
You don't see Bobby Jindal?
No, I don't. The last thing they need is what happened 4 years ago, which was this long, drawn-out process with 50 debates, and Romney didn't actually sink it until May, and that's the last thing they need. So I think there's going to be more consolidation early on.
Well, you've had an incredible record of really predicting accurately. You did it for the U.S. congressional race, and sort of locally, you weren't quite sure that Republicans were going to take the House, but they did.
And I said Dayton would be reelected, and he was.
Yes, you did.
And, I don't know. I just, it happens, Alan, right? You've been around a while, and you see it, and you have your pulse on the general public. And
I don't have a pulse anymore.
Oh, yeah. I do, and I think that the Republicans will pick up the presidential this time. I mean, that usually happens. It flips back and forth.
Historically,
We have 8
that's the
years.
way it happens.
Yeah. And so I think, assuming that there's a walker or a good candidate that comes out
Well,
of
they
this.
can't find anybody. The Democrats can't find anybody who will even challenge Hillary.
Which
who
I think
hasn't-
is crazy, because I
hasn't
think
announced, but I mean, at
No,
least
or Warren, or, that's
you need a
even-
little bit of a battle there.
it's actually good for parties to have a battle.
Absolutely.
Because then the candidate's vetted, and the best candidate usually rises to the
I'm
top.
a big
but
fan of an independent Bernie Sanders because
Bernie
just tells it like it is.
Bernie's nuts, but
He might be nuts, but
He's nuts.
based on some of the Republicans who I've seen lately, that might be an endearing quality. I don't know.
yeah, or the Democrats on that side. I'm surprised about Hillary because, first of all, there's still questions about whether she's actually, what her health and what kind of, whether she'll actually be the candidate. But I think people are sick of, just this legacy where you have, 2 Bushes and 2 Clintons. Now you have another Bush running, and you have, we are, this is not a monarchy here. This is we need a little new blood.
No, with the Koch brothers, it's become an oligarchy, is what it's.
Oh, there's more money on the left. Absolutely more money on the left.
I don't know anybody on the left who's going to put up almost $900 million to win an election.
Well, I don't know. I haven't looked at the numbers, but most of the big money is going in on the left.
I hope so, but remains to be seen. Now,
Yeah.
on the other side of the coin, you've been very busy
I have.
professionally
Yep.
right
Yep.
here.
Yep.
Tell us what's doing with you and these new businesses you're creating.
Well, I came when I was in Egan. I was council and mayor. I had a company in Egan, pretty big company, and I come from a business background, not just a political, hack background, and so I just made the decision a couple years ago that I'm going to get back into the business world. I'm good, it's what I'm good at, especially as a Republican, Alan, the minority party in the state. You get sick of knocking your head against a wall, right? And
That never stopped you before.
no, it didn't. But after the 2010 election, it was like, okay, I'm done. So I have been opening a series of European wax centers and across the Twin Cities, and I'm going to be opening one here in Egan.
European wax centers, so we can buy candles.
No,
No,
you can't. No.
no.
Yep. But you can go in and get your ears and your back and chest wax. So, Alan, for next time you go on vacation, there you go. So we do. It's actually a franchise, and we've been trying to build it out here in the Twin Cities. There's about 500 stores, and everything's a franchise now. Back when 20 years ago, that wasn't the case, and it's the case now.
It's
so
a shame as the mom and pop stores are
Yeah.
being eaten up.
they're really eating up. Yeah.
It really has affected the whole country,
Right,
and it's
right.
affected commerce. It's
Right.
affected business, certainly.
Yeah, very much. So, but it is what it is, and you have to deal with the reality of the world. So,
So you're waxing people to remove.
I'm not. No, I'm not
to
doing
remove
that. My
unwanted
staff is
hair.
doing that. Yeah, my staff's doing it. But it's been really fun. Most of my staff are of the millennial generation, and of course my kids are too. And so it's been really interesting over the past, several years.
How are your kids, by the way?
They're good. I don't know when I talked to you last. One of my sons graduated from college, and he's working for Wells Fargo, and it's amazing, right? So,
Banker?
yeah. And my daughter is graduating from the University of Minnesota, and she's going to pharmacy school next
Really?
year. She is actually going to go to the University of Missouri in Kansas City. So she got accepted at several schools. Unfortunately, not at the University of Minnesota. Their pharmacy school is like the second in the country. It's
Really? I didn't know
really,
that
really
either.
competitive. So we anyway, she loves it, and she loves Missouri, so she's heading down there. And my
The
other
healthcare,
daughter, and
the
I got
healthcare
2
business
stepkids
is where
in
it is.
college, and my
Yeah.
daughter's graduating and heading to college. And
And where's she going?
so, well, she wants to go to Missouri too. She wants to go to Mizzou. So that's what it
To be
looks
close
like.
to her sister?
Well, they're a couple hours apart, so
Not
but
so
it's
bad.
you know, so we'll see. But I'm almost an empty nester. I'm 3 months away. Although I do have the one son, George, is the one that's working for Wells Fargo, is back at home. So I have the bounce back a little bit, but it's a little different when they're
But that's
responsible adults versus
only a matter of time,
crazy
though,
teenagers.
right?
Yeah. And actually, it's been a delight to have
And
him.
the other son?
He is still working, doing security work. He was the one that was in over in Kuwait.
He was a
in the
Marine,
Guard.
wasn't he?
Hi?
Wasn't he a Marine?
He was in the Guard, the
Oh.
National Guard, and they were over in Kuwait, and he's back, and he was working at the Coke refinery. He's doing security work, and he wasn't really college bound, but he loves what he does, and he's good at it.
I have one of those too. So
Yeah,
it's,
yeah. So the kids are good, the husband's good, things are good, and I'm working my tail off with these companies.
So you've got 3 that are open?
I've opened 3 stores already.
And you're going to open 3 more?
I'm going to open 2 this year, 2015, and probably 3 more next year. So it's crazy.
And what's the name
but
of the business?
European Wax Center. And I will be here in Egan, and I'm actually going to put the corporate office here in Egan because I really want to be in Egan again. So
Well, we
at
want
least
you.
at least
We
I can
want you
work
in Egan too. So
if I
it's,
don't live in Egan, so yeah. So it'll be, but it's really been fun, and it's been fun with the products, fantastic, service is fantastic, but just the staff has just been really interesting.
One of the graphics went up there. It said that Pat Anderson's interviews over the last 12 years are available in the Dakota County Historical Society.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is,
So I'm in the Historical Society. So
The Historical
we're getting
Soc-
old, Alan.
the Historical Society took, I guess it's about 1,300 of our interviews now, and Sharon and I were there Wednesday. Very impressive. If you haven't been there, you haven't experienced
Yeah.
it, they really have an impressive building. And
Where is it?
It's in South St. Paul.
Okay.
And they have created a large archive of
That's interesting.
all of our interviews,
That's really interesting.
and
Be fun to-
available for educational or research purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because we can go back there and we can pull up, for instance, Tim Pawlenty when he sat here. Well, not here, but in the old building.
Yeah.
And
As a councilman? You
as
go
a-
back that far?
as a legislator.
As a legislator, okay.
Before he was governor,
Yeah.
and talked about his opposition to light rail.
Mm-hmm.
As I looked in the paper today and saw that the Blue Line just had its 1,000,000th passenger and has been so successful, so overly successful, that it's incredible.
Whoa. But I don't even know the dollars that we put in there. So I just remember the numbers is that we're subsidizing each passenger like $4 or $5 a piece for each ride.
Well, it's now-
so I look at that as
It's turning a nice profit,
Yeah,
and
well-
of course now we have the Green Line coming from St. Paul.
very
and
slowly.
Very slowly.
Very
Well,
slowly. It's a long, slow
driving slowly
ride.
is better on tracks these days, but
It's nice that it's finally done. I can
Yeah.
tell you that. So I actually have one of my stores is right on the Green Line over by the University of Minnesota, and it really hurt the businesses when that was being developed. And I mean, it just
we were talking about that
really hurt them.
last week.
So-
They had 2 years of hell. Where
Yeah,
they
they
really,
really did.
as the construction was going
Yeah,
on, it was
yeah.
manifestly unfair to the businesses,
Yeah.
except, and many of them went under.
They did,
But the
yeah.
ones that are there now are going great. So
Yeah,
I
we'll
don't
see.
know what the solution
We'll
is.
see. We'll see. So they should put it underground, but that would have cost even more. So
Now, we talked a few minutes before the interview, and one of the things we talked about was the announcement yesterday that Dayton is boosting the salaries of
Commissioners.
his commissioners. I think the smallest is 19,000, and the biggest is like 89,000 or
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
which really opened my eyes,
Yeah.
because that seems like a tremendous raise.
Yeah, it is. I served as a commissioner for a while under Plenty.
You have served as everything.
I have.
You've been the auditor.
Every time we'll go back to the old tapes, my title is different each time. But I can tell you that the commissioners, the previous law that they had to be capped at 85 and 95% of the governor's salary, and what that did, and last I served as a commissioner was in '08. Okay, so that's what 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And it hasn't gone up since then until now. But you were getting compression, serious compression, where you had 3 levels of the commissioner, the assistants, and the next level, all within a penny of each other, because they each had to be, and that was 7 years ago. And
I understand that to get good people, we have to pay them, and that as the governor said, they could make 10 times as much on the outside. I don't know whether it's 10 times or 8 times as much, but they could do much better on the outside than they can.
Yeah.
And yes, we want good people in government. And
I think what the legislature changed the law so that he could go up to 135 or whatever percent of the governor's salary. But Dayton took the whole thing in one bump, and that was crazy, because first of all, it's going to be another 20 years until they raise the cap again, and that was just too much. It was way too much. But
it was an eye-opener for me, I'll tell you that.
But I mean, Dayton, that's Dayton, right? So Dayton is going to spend money and tax everybody, and
he gives his salary back to the state anyway.
Well, does he anymore? I thought he ran out of money funding his campaigns.
Well, according to what he said yesterday, if they raise his salary,
if they raise it,
he's going to give it back to the state.
Okay, well, they're not going to raise it because they have to pass that legislatively, and they'll never do that. So, that was
That's right. We have
that was all window
Republicans
dressing.
in the House. You said something interesting. You said each time you come here, you have a different title, and it brought me back to the late Joe Franklin, who died a week ago, 10 days ago, and I first started doing television. It's funny. He's the most eccentric guy anybody ever dealt with. And he had his TV show on Channel 11 in New York.
Okay.
And every time, I did a biography of him on his 40th anniversary. He just had his 80th anniversary on television before he died. I did a biography on it, and I said he was eccentric, and I said that his office was absolutely a shambles, just disorganized, things all over, but he knew where everything was.
Yeah, that's common.
And he started so many careers, including Barbra Streisand, among others. Joe used to have me on the show. After I wrote this
Not 80 years ago, right?
No, 40 years ago. He said, "You're the only one who told the truth about me." And I told it like it was, that he was eccentric, etc. So he used to invite me, and we would go to Secaucus, New Jersey on a Friday. He said, "Bring additional shirts and jackets," because we would do 3 of next week's shows in one afternoon, much the same as we do here.
Yeah.
And so I would be an attorney in one, I would be a newspaper man in another, I was a book reviewer in another, I was, and I would never know who I was sitting next to. It could be a snake charmer, it could be a wrestler, it was just an incredible experience, and that really was how I whetted my appetite for television, which when we moved out here has taken off, and this has become 16 years of this, or 15 and a half, whatever it is. So, and I guess I'm someplace in the Franklin archive, but you were in the Access to Democracy archive, so.
That's great. That's great. No, back to the whole day, the commissioner, I think that it was needed to raise the salaries, but I think that what he did was incredibly excessive. But you needed to get rid of that compression. The other problem is that the local government officials weren't under that compression, and so you made, the city managers and the other department heads are making more money than the commissioner of corrections,
Yeah,
for example.
yeah.
And that is just not good. And so you weren't getting good people anymore that wanted to take these jobs, or it was a huge sacrifice financially to become a commissioner in the last, decade maybe, 7 8 years. So, but that's, Dayton takes things to excess.
Dayton has
So-
said, and he's been a guest here on multiple occasions, has said he's not going to run again. So who's the Democratic candidate going to be?
Well, I don't know your party as well as I know my own.
Yeah, but you usually guess pretty well.
Well, I'm sure that the lieutenant governor will be running, so that's, but you have, every legislator thinks that they should be governor, everyone.
I think the
and
Attorney General would like to be governor.
maybe, I don't know
I
if
think the
she
Lieutenant
has-
Governor would definitely like
Yeah,
to
I
be
think
governor.
that will be your most logical.
I think she's being groomed in that.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of speculation, still is, amongst Republicans that Dayton won't finish his term, and that, he just set this up for her to, take over.
Stranger things
near
have
the
happened.
end and then run, and I mean, there's a lot of.
And
So
who's-
there's my maybe prediction.
Okay,
You
and
heard
who's
it
going to be the
first here.
opposition on the Republican side?
I don't know. I think you're going to have some new names, out there. Again, every legislator in the world likes to run, but we, outside of plenty, we haven't. Minnesota does not put legislators in the governor's office, and just like we rarely put, senators into the the president's
Yeah.
office, and it was a fluke, with Obama and McCain, because they were both senators, right? So I mean, you're picking. And when Plenty ran, he ran. I think it was Roger Moe, or I can't remember who, one of those guys. But it was the same thing. You had two legislators. So I don't. It'll be interesting. You'll have probably some business folks popping up too. I can tell you, there's a lot of talk between. I'm still on the exec board of the Republican Party, and there is a lot of talk.
I would be disappointed if you weren't.
Between the two parties
Even
about
though you
primary schedules.
floated toward libertarianism. Well, there's
Oh,
a
I
name.
am very much, yeah. But a lot of Republicans
There's a name
are
we didn't
libertarian.
mention. We didn't mention Rand Paul when we were talking about possible
No,
candidates.
and I am a fan of Rand Paul. That to me,
Are your children vaccinated?
they are. Yes, they are. Yeah, I'm not that paranoid. So,
It's
but I can tell you, the younger generation, as we all know, is very libertarian. These millennials are very libertarian, and whichever party captures that most will probably be the dominant party, down the road. And it's generally a social tolerance and a fiscal conservative, but very much a leave me alone
I don't see how
attitude.
any younger person could gravitate toward the Republican Party.
Depends on
as
what the
it's
Republican
now-
Party becomes.
As it's now structured,
Yeah.
in terms of birth control, in terms of abortion, in terms of so many things that are really vital to the millennials.
But Alan, for the whole thing that Republicans are opposed to is a made-up thing by Obama to get to get votes. Back when he
Oh,
was
give
running
me
for
a
election.
break. Give me a
I mean,
break.
Republicans absolutely are. They are not opposed to birth control whatsoever. I think the party is changing and has been changing.
56
It needs
votes
to continue the same.
do away with
No.
the Affordable Care Act. 56 now.
Yeah, I know.
That's John Boner.
Over and over and over.
What they say, if you do the same thing and get the same result time after time after time, it's a sign of idiocy. And
Idiocy or insanity, right?
Or insanity,
Yeah.
and that's
Well, that's right. And part of that is just, I agree. Because it's not going to go away when we have Obama in the White House. So it's just not going to happen.
hopefully it's not going to go away, period.
Well, I think that it will get and should be very gutted.
This
And we can
Burwell
get on
case
a-
that's being argued in the Supreme Court in March is really important.
Yeah.
Because how John Roberts goes in that one could really, really affect what happens with Affordable Care Act.
Right.
I don't call it Obamacare because it's not. It's the Affordable Care Act.
It's very much the unaffordable Obamacare. So, but I do, there are parts of the whole philosophy, like people should have insurance. I completely agree with that. People should have insurance because otherwise we're paying for them as taxpayers. They're walking into hospitals and we're paying through our rates.
Europe laughs at us. They have free health insurance.
They have
in
really,
the Scandinavian,
really bad health care.
Not true.
Really
not
bad.
true.
And most of them have a private policy
Just
on top
because the
of it.
British have bad teeth doesn't mean that they have bad health care.
Oh, that's all health care.
And the fact of the matter, they educate and send people to college where we're falling behind in all the statistics.
And it's something that should be a debate in this country. I mean, you can say it's positive or negative, but they take kids when they're in middle school and they put them on a track, right? So if you get on you're going to trade school track when you're 12, that's the end. You'll never go to university, but there's an argument that
they don't
we
do
need
that.
to.
They don't do that in Finland, by the way. They really, in Finland,
I don't know what they do in Finland.
They pick and choose
who's going to go to the
appropriately.
Yeah.
The people
but
get
there
the
is
choice.
an argument
The children get the choice.
That the trade schools, we need to do more for kids that are heading to trade school or that should have had to, because frankly, there's a lot of money in the trades, right? And you know what it costs to have a plumber, come over and lecture? There's a huge need. And those are good
Just been there,
jobs.
done that, so
really good,
believe me. It's
good job. So we need to, there are kids that we need to push it, rather than just, they finish high school, they don't know what they're doing, they go away, this sort of thing, and they have no training.
We should have done this for an hour instead of a half hour.
Are we running out of time?
We're down to our last 50 seconds.
Oh my God, okay.
And we haven't even scratched the surface
No, we
yet.
haven't,
So when are you opening up your next shop?
Either in the fall or early spring here in Egan. Maple Grove will open before that, probably in the summer.
So you got to come back after you open another one, and we'll talk about it.
I will if I'm sane by then. So
if you're sane,
you
haven't been sane since I know you. But
it's been quite a roll, but I love it.
But that's why we love each other. So what can I say?
We're both insane.
Pat Anderson, our former mayor, commissioner, auditor, Republican strategist, everything. It is always a joy to have you here.
It's fun.
And,
thanks, Alan.
I thank you
Yeah,
so
thanks.
much.